One of my favorite tweets that I ever posted, I don't think ever got like its due engagement.
What was it?
It was, "Oh, hush, keep it down now, motion carries." And it was during a Metro Council meeting. Motion carries, voices carry. It was like, this is great stuff. And I think like one council member liked it or something. And I was like, what are we doing here, folks?
I feel like that's not your best work.
I thought I was on home court here. You guys didn't even laugh at all at that.
You're right. It took me a second. I don't know that I'm.
Carry. Did I need to sing it?
Is that a song? What is
Not
that?
speaking to me.
Yeah. Voices carry. Hold on. Steve Harush is out there and he knows. He's keeping quiet, but he knows this is good content. No, it's okay. Wow. So, okay. No, this is good, though. This is good for me to know. Now I know why it got no traction. Keep it down now.
But it is.
But
that
motions
is-
carry.
That is funny.
Motion carries.
Now that it's been explained to me, it is funny.
Okay, great.
But
I'm
the
taking
song
that
is
as a
not
win.
widespread enough.
That's a win.
For it to land.
Well, hey everyone, this is Stephen Hale from the Nashville Banner, and I'm here with my colleague Stephen Elliott. How's it going?
It's going great.
What I want to start with, we're doing our spring fundraising campaign, which we're raising money, runs until April 17th. If you're listening to this and you're not a financial supporter, that'd be great if it's in your budget to do so. The reason I bring it up, though, is as a way to kind of maybe let people know, let our potential supporters, readers know about who they're supporting. We could get to know you a little better by just getting into something that we were just discussing, which is that you are a big fan of a certain musical movie franchise.
I'm
called
glad
Mamma
you.
Mia.
I'm glad you added the word franchise because I am also a big fan of Mamma Mia: Here We Go Again.
Here we go again.
The sequel.
Is there a third Mamma Mia?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay, I wonder, and I could be wrong about this. You know how sometimes there will be like a sequel, and then there will be kind of like the straight to Redbox like third one that none of the same actors are in. I didn't know if there was one of those with Mamma Mia. Okay, why do you love Mamma Mia so much?
I love the music of ABBA. I love the setting in Greece.
Grease, hard to beat.
I love the antics of the three men competing.
Who people should know? It's Pierce Brosnan, Colin Firth,
and Skarsgård.
And the
Stellan.
elder Stellan Skarsgård. Yes, yeah.
Great film.
Singing, dancing, sort of.
There's a scene, and I believe it's in the sequel.
Meryl Streep.
Not in the original, where the men, at least two of them, are arriving at the island on a large ship. And there's a song playing as they arrive, and the men are like dancing with each other up on the bridge of the ship, and it just brings me a lot of joy.
And it's been a while since I saw the first Mamma Mia. As I recall, though, like you could tell that these guys are really doing this singing, and they're not the best, but it seems like they're really singing.
Well, same with Meryl Streep.
Yeah, like none of them are singers or musical theater people, but they're just doing it.
Although the lead. What's her name? We were just talking
Amanda
about
Seyfried.
Amanda Seyfried is an amazing singer.
Yes, well, and she just recently was in that, which I didn't see that movie, but it was nominated for Oscars, where she sings in that movie too, because it's about what's the religious sect that it's about? Yeah, where they sing a cappella. Anyway, we have more important things to discuss, which is well, we'll see. People can be the judge. Which is that there was a Metro Council meeting Tuesday night, which started with a lengthy discussion about the rules surrounding whether nominees for boards and commissions can move their interview dates. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What's your take on this? What did you take from that conversation?
Well, it won't really affect you too much unless you are nominated by the council for a seat on a board.
And you have like a soccer game the night that they want to interview you.
So basically, if you're nominated to one of these boards or commissions by the mayor, then there's some flexibility because the mayor controls that seat. So the council rules committee interviews each candidate for these seats, and then at the meeting, the following meeting 2 weeks later, that's when they vote to confirm them. So if it's a mayoral appointee, you can push that back 2 weeks if the person has a conflict or whatever. But when it's a council appointment, council members can put forward a nominee, and then they're kind of competing with each other. And there's a prescribed schedule for how those people are interviewed and voted on. And it is not very flexible. So there have been instances in the recent past where someone was on a business trip or had whatever planned before, because this will come up like 2 weeks in advance. They might be out of town. They might have whatever. They can't skip. And there was a lot of back and forth about whether it was a good idea to give people that flexibility or to just keep it as is.
I just so fond of you because I partly thought that I would toss that out and you would just dismiss it, and you gave like a very coherent explanation of what happened. I will say it was kind of interesting in the sense that I think people more broadly in Nashville, if they don't pay super close attention to metro politics, may not really realize how close they are to being able to be on a city board or commission. Like they can reach out to their council member and say, I want to be on this board. And if the council member agrees to nominate them, they can really kind of be on in a pretty important decision-making capacity. We're talking about, boards that make decisions about all kinds of things that really do matter. So from that standpoint, it was kind of interesting to listen to the discussion. It made me think about that because I don't know if people...
I think if you listen to this podcast, you're probably qualified to be on one of the dozens of boards that Metro has. And so you should reach out to your council member.
Well, and this gets to a thing that you and I have talked about. Maybe we'll do sometime as we continue doing this podcast about dedicating some special time to some of the more obscure boards and commissions and talking about what they do, why they do it, and how they do it.
Yeah, it's fascinating.
So, yeah. But so some other stuff that happened at council last night, your story leads with this. There was a proposal to give people credit on their water bills after the ice storm. Can you give us a little background of that and what happened?
Yeah. So there were several pieces of legislation filed shortly after the ice storm. Different efforts at helping people financially, et cetera. And one of them was from the mayor's office and Metro Water, and it was a credit on your water bill. It would have been about $25 or $26, I think, for each customer. And it was on its third reading last night, so that's its final vote, and it had passed its previous votes. But at the last meeting, Councilmember Courtney Johnson, who's kind of one of the more conservative members of the council, had asked a lot of questions about the logistics of this, the need for this. She had gathered some information from Metro Water that showed that most customers didn't actually have higher water bills.
Right.
So the premise was basically the city asked us to drip our faucets to prevent pipes bursting. The theory
pay us back for the water use or whatever.
The theory being, that your water bill would be higher because you left your faucets on for this whole time. She cited some information that showed that most people didn't actually use more water, or their bills weren't sort of out of a normal range, and that it would make more sense financially to target relief to people who had more severe impacts. I think the other side of the coin from the mayor's office and from some of the council members who supported it was it's not really about your water bill per se. It's really like, here's one way that the city has to offer relief directly and automatically to people without making them go to an office or know which number to call or have different documents in place and ready. This would just be automatic. Mm-hmm. And there are people who maybe they didn't have an impact on their water bill, but they had to throw away food or they had other impacts.
Something the Metro can't easily replace, so they
Right.
can help you in this way, right?
Right. So last night, they didn't even debate the bill. Council member called the question right away, which means the debate's over if everyone agree, if enough people agree, and they did. So there wasn't a long debate about this. There wasn't any debate about this. But some of those questions I think that she had raised previously were lingering in people's minds. And the vote was 16 to 18. So 16 people voted for it, 18 people voted against it, and it needed 21 votes. So it wasn't that close.
Yeah, it's interesting. And I think you said in your story the estimated cost of this would have been like $6 million for Metro Water.
And there was some back and forth about that because Metro Water also got a lot of extra revenue from the extra water people use, but not that much extra revenue. So there was a question of, should we be spending customers' money? Because at the end of the day, Metro Water is a publicly owned utility. And this question has come up with NES too. NES giving money to relief funds, Metro Water giving people money back on their bills. At the end of the day, it's the customer's money anyway. So it's sort of moving. It's like a shell game almost, where it's like this money is coming out of one pocket and going into another pocket. That was one of the arguments.
Yeah, although, I mean, as someone who has occasionally found money unexpectedly in one of my pockets, even though that was my money, finding it still a little boost.
I think that was part of the appeal of some of these measures.
Yeah, and I mean the whole question of whether you should take the time to figure out who needs this the most, quote unquote, or just do it is an interesting one that comes up a lot in politics, right? Like there's a situation in New York City right now where the Mamdani administration is getting questions about one of their universal programs. Not that this is quite the same, but it's a relief program where on one hand it's easier, it's more efficient or more direct to just give everyone the money back and say, thanks everyone, we're trying to help, as opposed to trying to, zero in on here's the few people that their bill spiked and we'll give them a break.
It's come up here too with transit, and some people want buses to be free. There's a program to give free bus passes to lower income people, and some people argue that there's a huge administrative cost, and there's a burden on the users to provide the right paperwork and show up at the right time to the right event to get the card. And it'd be easier if we just say, screw it, everyone can ride for free. There are counterpoints to that too, but that's the means testing argument that I think was also present in the water bill.
And you have the situation where some people maybe their water bill did spike or they had leaking or whatever. Something happened to where they did get a big increase in their water bill, but because of whatever the circumstances, they're not going to find out about this program and they won't apply for it or something, which, not to be too cynical, but sometimes I think, actually not even cynically, sometimes explicitly stated, I'm not talking about this specifically, I didn't hear anyone say this about this, but some of these programs, you hear the people who are pushing for means testing basically say, we'll save some money because some people won't apply for this relief that we're offering if we make it more specific. Anyway, so that's a moot point then, right? Now that's just done. Like there's no...
And the mayor sent out a statement this morning after the vote that he was, very disappointed, and this was an opportunity to put money back in people's pockets, and he was pretty upset about it.
It's a little surprising to me that went that way, just because it seems like the kind of thing that would have been greeted warmly by people in the city. The other...
Well, real quick, it makes me wonder... this was introduced very shortly after the storm. There were a lot of very strong feelings from people. And it makes me wonder if some of those feelings are fading if enough council members feel comfortable voting against something like this.
Yeah. I mean, that's a good point. You may be right. It's tensions are not quite as high. I also wonder if Metro Water, as the other city utility, is just kind of like, we'd rather you not talk about us right now. We managed to make it through this. No one was mad at us. We'll just stay over here quietly getting the water to you, and you can talk about NES. There was also some child care related initiatives that were up on the agenda. And this is something that I know, we've probably both written some about in the past and definitely talked about, that there is for a long time been a real shortage of childcare options in the city, given how quickly it's grown. Anyone who's tried to get a kid into childcare has seen how there's years-long waiting lists for some of these places and things like that. So what was, this came from the mayor, right? This was a proposal from the administration.
The mayor and a few council members are kind of joined in that. And there are two bills that were introduced a few weeks ago. And one of them was on the agenda last night. One of them is not. It's sort of for procedural reason that's not really worth getting into. But the bill that was up last night that passed second reading, I think, so it still has one more vote. But it would. The city already has a prioritization program for affordable housing projects to get kind of a sped up approval process because there's so much development in the city. Sometimes it could take a while to go through the city process of getting all the paperwork in order. So this would put childcare up there with affordable housing kind of up at the front of the line, not skipping anything, but just getting to go sooner than some other project. And the idea being if you can speed the development process along, it reduces costs, it accelerates delivery. The other one that is a step behind, but was introduced at the same time, is related to zoning restrictions on childcare facilities. There are certain distance requirements and lot size requirements, I think, that they're trying to do away with. Some of those distance requirements are the same that are for like noxious uses, like, I don't know, nightclubs or vape shops, things like that you don't want to concentrate in one neighborhood. And the idea behind this legislation is like we shouldn't view childcare as a noxious use in a neighborhood.
Yeah, even though some people might, but yeah, that makes sense. So this would, in theory, make it easier to bring more of these on quicker. And what happened at the meeting? Those were what happened with those?
Well, one of them, like I said, one of them was not on the agenda. It will be back. It has to go to the Planning Commission first. But the one about prioritization moved along on its second vote, so I think it'll be up for a final vote at the next meeting.
And then I have this on my list here, but there's maybe not a ton to say about it because it got deferred. But there were some East Bank related issues. Zoning, this is stuff related to zoning and parking and all that kind of stuff up last night. So at least tell us what wasn't discussed.
It's all to do with the East Bend project, which there was some discussion about this in committee, but the name is a little bit confusing.
Bend, Bank, whatever. Yeah.
Yes, the area is East Bank. The city-owned project from Fallon is called East Point. This project right next door is called East Bend. And I'm shocked that I didn't mix up any of that. But they're all, it's all the East Bank. But anyway, the scrapyard, I'm sure you've seen it. It's big and a bunch of big pile of old rusty metal right there by the stadium. It's been there for years and years and years. And mayor after mayor after mayor have wanted it gone because it's rare that there's a use like that so close to like a thriving downtown like Nashville. It's
pretty wild. Yeah, it's like
And so as the city was doing the stadium and the project next door on their own land, I think it was always desired that would be the scrapyard across the street would be redeveloped as well. It's a very large property, and so there's a group of investors now who are trying to do that. This is the rezoning to allow them to move forward and do that. It was supposed to be up for its final vote last night. Amendments get filed. The way that amendments get filed to things is kind of complicated, but basically 18 amendments got filed on this zoning legislation, which is a lot. It's very unusual.
And were most of those amendments related to like certain uses or certain like what? Not to go through all of them, but what was what kinds of things are people trying to amend about this?
So the main things that seem like they have some support on the council after committee discussion relate to parking and hotel uses. And some of these are coming from Councilmember Clay Capp, who's an East Nashville representative. His district doesn't include that property, but it's right there next to it once you cross the interstate. And so his argument is hotels can be in this area, but they're describing a new neighborhood, and neighborhoods aren't primarily made up of hotels. I think the fear is that because it's right there next to the stadium and we're trying to get a Super Bowl and we're trying to get the Final Four and all that, it might be incentivized to just build a bunch of hotels there, and then there wouldn't be long-term housing. There wouldn't be permanent residents or as many. The other thing he's worried about is parking. If you build a bunch of parking, it will induce people to drive there, including during the week to park there and go across the river to work downtown. And he doesn't want that because that's not really a neighborhood use parking. So those are some of the discussions. There's also discussion about heights, which seems to be on the back burner. And let's see, shadows was one of the things that came up.
Okay, now I'm paying attention.
Yeah.
I was starting to zone out there for a second, but
Zoning out is the new segment name.
oh my God, zoning out. It's like 10, 15 minutes about zoning.
Yeah. So I'll tell you about the shadows, which I thought it was actually pretty interesting. So the city-owned project is basically right across the street, and it has, for the most part, lower heights than the scrapyard project will be allowed to have. And there was some discussion about we don't want all this stuff to be so high because it will shade out the city-owned project next door, but also because the Imagine East Bank plan, which is this like vision document that the whole city created a couple years ago, says we want lower buildings by the river and then step them up towards the interstate. I guess for a visual effect or whatever, for view sheds, I don't know. This would allow for a very tall building sort of right there at the river and that main street that goes through there. And there was some worry about the shadows. And so one of the amendments had requested a shadow study. Some council members who are pro-housing, they argued that we shouldn't worry too much about shadows because it's hot.
That's one
in
view.
Nashville,
Yeah,
and it's getting hotter, and we should want shadows. So I think that'll come up again.
This is like a newspaper headline writer's dream, like what we do in the shadows, shadowy effort. I mean, there's all. So a shadow study. Do we know what is that? Just a guy doing geometry and figuring out or do we have any idea what a shadow study even looks like?
Yeah, it's like, I don't know, Copernicus or something, but
right. I mean, because I'm just imagining a shadow study as you go out there and you just sort of stand there and go, yeah, there'd be like a shadow right there.
Well,
right?
if you've ever had someone ask you about your yard and how much sun it gets in order to decide what plants to plant, I'm always like thinking in my head, I'm like, well, I think when I look up there, it's sunny in the afternoon, but then wait, isn't it sunny in the morning? So, but it changes throughout the year,
Well, I've learned this recently because I've been watching a lot of space content with Artemis 2, and so
So I think a shadow study looks at different times of year, different times of day,
right,
and shows you how, let's say in the afternoon, this building across the street will be fully shaded. Is that good or bad? I think it. In a place like Chicago or a colder weather place, this is what they were talking about in the committee, at least. It makes more sense to study this because you don't want a park that's shady.
Right.
Because it'll be too cold to use. Mm-hmm. Here in Nashville in the summer, I guess a shady park sounds kind of nice.
Yeah,
but
I mean...
that's some of the discussion.
On the one hand, I'm sort of laughing about this, but I think fully like 50 or 60% of the conversations I have with neighbors is like, oh man, it's pretty great that you get to sit on your front porch and not have the sun in your face because on my side of the street, the sunset is right in our eyes and we have to sit on the back porch and blah, blah, blah.
Well, I'll find a shadow study guy for you and they'll come out to Old Hickory.
I would love to. I bet I could get 200 or 300 comments on the neighborhood Facebook page about the need for a shadow study. I bet I could gin this up. All right. Well, I could keep talking about shadows, honestly, but I think that's just about it. Is there anything else at the council that you think? I got one more thing for you here.
Well, back to your headline. Is there a Peter Pan?
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
What is the shadow? The Peter
he loses his shadow,
right? And the shadow starts running around and stuff.
He goes amok. Yeah, maybe there's something. We'll get back to y'all next episode.
Top 5 shadow puns. Can we do book corner real quick?
Yeah.
So this came to my mind because you and we talk about a lot of books that we are reading or want to read, but also you walked in here with a early copy of a book that you're going to be working on a review for, and you wrote a review of a book that's out this week. I don't know if your review is
out. It is.
Okay.
Yep.
So tell us about that, about your side hustle here, reviewing books, and then we'll talk about those 2 books.
Yeah, Book Page is based in Nashville on Belcourt Avenue. You might have seen it.
If you can pick these up at your library and various places around town.
It has a huge circulation actually, because it's at libraries and bookstores all over the country. So you can walk into most libraries and Parnassus and they have a stack of them and they're free. And they just, kind of review and recommend new books every month. And one of our old colleagues at The Scene is the nonfiction editor there. So I've been reviewing nonfiction books for her, and it's a lot of the books that you and I love to read. It's a lot of the new nonfiction by journalists and New Yorker writers that we love, and that's the case. Yeah, the new one is Patrick Radden Keefe's new book. He's the author of, I guess most famously, probably Say Nothing.
Say Nothing, yeah.
About the troubles in the IRA, and this new book is like that, as a extension, I guess, an expansion of a article he wrote for the New Yorker. It's called London Falling.
Yes.
About a kind of a mysterious situation where a teenager in London died, and his parents learned that he had been mixed up with all these billionaires and Russian criminals, and even though he was kind of from a pretty ordinary upper middle class family. It's very, very interesting read.
It sounds pretty amazing. And when I walked in here today for us to record this, I saw there's a copy of it sitting out there because their colleague Demetria Kalodimos is moderating an event with Patrick Radden Keefe this weekend, I believe. I don't know if it's sold out.
I didn't know. I didn't know she was moderating that. That's very exciting.
Yeah. So people should check out Book Pages. I'll just toss out, because this is lets us plug another banner podcast, which is I'm working toward finishing a book called American Men by Jordan Ritter Kahn, who's a Nashville-based writer, good friend of mine, and it's a great book. It's about kind of these very intimate profiles of 4 different men, American men, as the title suggests, but very well done. And he's on Banner and Company coming up soon, so people can look out for that. And then we'll have you back to kind of follow up on Shadows and Zoning and musical theater.
Okay.
So
sounds like a plan.
We're a production of the Nashville Banner, and we're produced by Andrea Tudhope, who did see Mamma Mia and didn't really care for it. So keep listening. We'll see you soon.